Welcome back to the BJJ Fanatics Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ford. My guest today is a 6th-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's an international master and senior champion. He's also a Vegas Open champion, a Hickson Gracie International champion, and a Brazilian national champion. He was also a Rio de Janeiro state champion and a purple and brown belt world champion. He's the founder of the BJJMentalCoach.com, where he helps competitors with sports psychology methods to perform their very best. He's also the host of the BJJ Mental Coach Podcast. And he's also the founder of a really cool social project called Jiu-Jitsu Tribe Social Project. It's an A501c3 nonprofit organization geared towards helping at-risk youth train jiu-jitsu for free. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be joined today for the 3rd time in my podcasting career by an old friend of mine, Professor Gustavo Dantas. How are you today, Gustavo?
I'm doing great, dude. I'm glad to be back here. It's been a while, so ready to share some information about Jiu-Jitsu Tribe and anything else that you want to chat about.
Gustavo, it's great to have you back, man. It's been, I think the last time I interviewed you was 2017, if I recall correctly. That's obviously a lot of time that's passed. Man, catch us up. What have you been up to in the meantime since all those years?
Whew. Okay, how much time we got? Yeah, so of course the school, I have, for people who don't know about my work, I have an academy in Tempe, Arizona. I've been here in Arizona. Actually, I have officially, Ryan, lived half of my life in Brazil, half in the United States, 24.
Wow.
That's wild. Yeah. So I've been teaching in Arizona since 2000. So nowadays I don't teach as many classes. We have a great group, great staff at the academy. So I only teach like a couple of classes a week. So I can go in and train whenever I want to train or jump in a class. So as far as the academy going well, and also for people who don't know, I'm an event promoter. I've been promoting events since 1998. Actually, my first event was in Brazil. So I'm the owner of Arizona Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu League. We started here in Arizona about 2000, 2001. Was a little in-house tournament with 40 people. And it took us 4 years to get out of the academy. It was a different scene back then. It took us 4 years to reach 100 people. So nowadays in a tournament, 100 people, yeah, you kind of sneeze and boom, 100 competitors now. So that was 4 years to break 100 people. So we couldn't really rent a place. So fast forward to 2023, and now we have about 6 events a year, every 2 months. And you have about 5,000 to 6,000 competitors a year, and running full official size mats, 12 areas, up to 12 areas, depending on the size of the tournament. Great setup. And we have an awesome team, awesome staff, rolling, just everything is smoothly. And it's awesome that I don't need to be there, which this is something that's not just like, yeah, I don't have to be there, but this is something that I don't want, Gustavo gets hit by a bus, I'm not here anymore, and then suddenly the tournaments are over. Like, no, the tournaments are here to provide a service to the community. So that was the idea of playing that, also called the infinite game, right? You just keep that going as long as you have a nice system going. The events keep providing to the community. So the nonprofit organization, the Jiu-Jitsu Tribe, started in 2010. It started at Live Jiu-Jitsu and eventually rebranded to Jiu-Jitsu Tribe. And now, since I don't teach as much, I don't have to do as much with the tournaments, it gives me some freedom to work more on this passion of the social aspect. And we started this project, and I felt like this year we've been able to pick up more because of having the freedom and played around with, the jiu-jitsu. I still have the BJJ Mental Coach Podcast, and started in 2018. Last year, focused a little bit more on Brazilian episodes. So this year, kind of getting back to the English episodes to promote Jiu-Jitsu Tribe as well. That's one of the sources that we promote the program, because most of the donors are from the United States, the English content. So it'll be better for me to be doing interviews and promoting English.
That's excellent. That makes perfect sense, man. Well, that's really awesome. I love that you always have several irons in the fire, and I also love how you put so much emphasis on the social project. And Gustavo, that's actually what I wanted to talk to you with in depth today, because I love the work that you're doing through your social project. One of the most meaningful experiences that I ever had in my jiu-jitsu journey was spending time at a social project run by a good friend of mine here in Sao Paulo. And prior to that, I never even realized what a social project really was. Like, I never realized how effective jiu-jitsu could be to help people in need, and it really changed my perspective on things. In fact, if anyone's interested, I made a short film about my experience there. It's free on YouTube. It's called The Saint of Crackland. But Gustavo,
I watched that.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Gustavo, since this is a subject that you and I are both very passionate about, I figured it'd be a good topic to cover with you today. So jiu-jitsu social projects have been around in Brazil, obviously, for a long time, but I feel like they could really be replicated anywhere. So if you don't mind, please explain the structure of a social project. How does one begin? What are the moving parts, and how's it usually funded?
So I'm going to talk about as far as Jiu-Jitsu Tribe goes. So we divide in two parts, two main service per se. The first one, I like to say that it's mental health related, meaning we do partner up with mental health related organizations, behavior centers, that kids with anxiety disorder, depression, and they already work with a mentor. They already have a facilitator that works with them. So we do this partnership. And for example, one of the places in Phoenix called Resilient Health. So what they do is we help to give scholarship to kids to use jiu-jitsu as a form of therapy. So we don't just kind of like just a sponsorship, but no, they already been working with someone, and then we put jiu-jitsu on top of that. And I did a pilot a couple of years ago in my academy, and it went awesome. We did it with multiple kids, and as you already know, and everyone who's listening, you've seen changes on yourself or kids. So imagine with kids with difficulty with mental health, you know what it can do. So the only issue I found out was logistic, because it was far, Phoenix from Tempe, depending how deep you are in Phoenix, and decided it just wasn't practical. And then to be able to get a van to bring the students, all that kind of stuff. So I created a partnership with the Arizona BJJ League and Jiu-Jitsu Tribe to be able to basically schools from that participate in tournaments of the Arizona Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu League, if they're willing to donate one spot at least to a student for a 6 months program. They provide the gi, and the gi, of course, if the kids stop training, is from the school, but you're providing, not charging them. So they go for like 3 months, stop, reevaluate, see if the kid is still engaged, and if it's working well. And then after 6 months, the school can decide to reevaluate. Do you want to renew? Does the kid who wants to train? So the transformations are incredible. And I feel that this, as I mentioned, it can be replicated to every state and everywhere. So right now, we're doing this in Arizona. I'd love to eventually go to other states, but we do want to use that partnership with mental health related organizations, because I think it's having like a mentor, having someone to be checking on a kid, plus jiu-jitsu on top of that, man, it's incredible. So this is one aspect that we do. The other one is a big, and you've been in Brazil now for quite some time, and I don't know how much like you've seen of some of the social projects that sometimes they start and they stop. And one of the reasons they stop is sustainability, because most, of course, are those coaches, man, a lot of them, they barely have for themselves, okay? And incredible souls that give in their time and effort, but there's times they'll be like, dude, I need to get another job. I just can't do it anymore. And then so many programs, they end because they need to get a job. So at the beginning, when I start officially in 2010, we used to help kids with from projects with entry fees for tournaments and stuff, which is a different topic. But we decided to stop on that end because they'd be like, yes, awesome. Yeah, they went to compete. Great, cool. And the next thing, the program is over because they didn't have money to keep up. But like, well, it doesn't do you any good if we pay for registration, but now they don't have where to train. So that kind of was a click for them to start like, you know what, we need to work on sustainability. And that's one of the main focus that we're doing right now. And we also create a program called Adopt a Social Project for companies, academies, associations, even individuals that want to commit to 12 months to support a project, and mainly this money to help give some money to the coach. Also involved with the sustainability, we've done a lot of like makeovers, helping with construction, sometimes buying new mats or gis, just supporting social projects that offer jiu-jitsu classes for free. We want to do this worldwide. It happens that in Brazil, as you already know, many people don't know who are listening, but you have thousands of projects. Brazil, it's a massive country, literally thousands of projects, and it's incredible. People just giving their time, and we just little by little trying to get more involved with projects and hopefully try to help. We've done a lot of like makeovers and stuff like that, but there's so much you can do. And of course, we have our issue. What is our issues? Not just ours, but any nonprofit sustainability, to be able to keep up with expenses, to be able to help out. And then I can get a little bit more into that.
That's excellent. No, I really appreciate that breakdown. Yeah, the topic of sustainability is one that I can see being a major obstacle for a lot of people that want to start a social project. In fact, the one that I highlighted in the film I was referring to, unfortunately, after COVID, they had to close down because they lost a lot of their funding due to the pandemic, which sucks because it was such a great program. So on that topic, what have you found to be the best way to keep things going? Has it been mostly through academy owners? Do you find that you get more charitable individuals? Is it companies? What seems to be the most efficient way to keep a program funded?
Man, still a challenge. Again, 2023, that's the year that I've been able to put more time. As far as usually we do fundraisers. So most of the seminars that I teach, they're fundraiser seminars. This year, I decided to have like 2 weekends per month to be able to travel and do the fundraisers. So this is the main one, seminars and do raffles and stuff while we're there. So this is kind of our main source. I don't put a lot of work on GD Jiu-Jitsu Association. This is something that I have, it's all students who decided to teach. And I told them like, hey, whatever money you to pay us, you just kick some money to Jiu-Jitsu Tribe. So it's basically their monthly fees, just doing a donation, and it can be tax write-off as well. But anyway, so we have that, and we don't have too many monthly donors. We're trying to even share the concept of donating like $5 per month, right? Like, but consistently, if you have like a lot of people donating $5, it's not like, I'm gonna donate $5. How much difference can I make in my $5? Like, well, in a long run with a lot of people, kind of a lot.
Yeah. Because
we do have expenses, and to do everything we try to do, it's not feasible for me to be traveling all the time. And a lot of the stuff, as far as Jiu-Jitsu Tribe goes, a lot is funded for like, my academy puts in, and then the events put in. And anyway, so a lot comes from Jiu-Jitsu per se, of a lot of the efforts. So that was kind of, my idea to create a thing. So when I need to inject money, and I have no problem doing it, but there's so much that I can do. And of course, more people supporting, the better. We started a partnership with Browse Fight for geese. So that's a new project that we're doing, that we're only going to do pre-orders. So we're doing like 3 batches a year. So the cool idea is you buy a gi, generate 1 gi for a kid from a project.
Cool.
But it's not usually when companies donate gis, and this is not a donation for Browse, of course, it's a lot, but they give us like a good rate and work with us. But we make a custom-made Browse gi with the belt, with the logo of the social project. everything, like it's the model that we did, it's black gi, so for all to not have any difference to any other projects. But basically we had one right now, and we producing 150 gis, real like good quality gis, and it's not cheap, and it's not cheap to ship to Brazil. That's this whole dynamic. But we little by little try to get possibly more fundraisers, and we have like little breakdowns of, because academies, they can have fundraisers just to buy gis. They're like, hey, I want to donate 25 gis, I want to donate 50 gis. They can choose the project, or they can ask her any suggestions. You have a list. As a matter of fact, there's a list of, like, in my whiteboard of some of the projects that we're currently closer to, per se, and we have influenced some way, or we have helped somehow, we have visited. So the gi aspect, it's a cool concept too. That, imagine, like, you buy a gi and then you see a picture like, oh wow, that kid is wearing a gi because I bought a gi. So that's, it's very cool to, like, to see it, like, really measurable in a way, right? It's like, oh wow, so that is one of the concepts. So I appreciate Browse for the partnership, and we plan on doing 3 batches a year. The first one just closed, so we should be receiving the gis in about a month, and then we do a different color, so do 3 colors a year, and hopefully every year get the word out and people can support more.
That's incredible, man. I love it, man. What a cool program that Browse is doing with you too. There's so much capacity for jiu-jitsu to impact people around the world like that, and that's something that really dawned on me as I was spending time at the social project. And it's just really cool to see people on the ground doing this kind of stuff. Now, let me ask you this. Obviously, everyone that does jiu-jitsu knows that for a lot of us, it's a very therapeutic thing. It's something that adds tremendous benefit to our lives. From what you've seen over the years of watching kids go through the social projects and get to train and get off the streets and get away from negative influences and be on the mats, what have been some of the greatest results that you've seen so far among the kids? What are some of your favorite success stories, and what's a common theme you see as a result of a program like this?
Man, I was in Brazil about a month ago. I went to record like some doc series. We went to 4 projects, some of them that already have been in contact for, actually there were 4. So we had a relationship with 2, previously 2 are fairly new. So what I decided to do is basically show that the impact of jiu-jitsu in impoverished communities as a personal and social development tool. So we picked different topics. Since we went to 4 places, we're about to, we just finishing the editing the first one, but we did one related to drug trafficking, right, and drug addiction. So showing the power of, one was how jiu-jitsu was able to save this guy from drug addiction, and then interview the coach and 2 people. So usually that was kind of like the format. And we had one guy, like, super powerful stories. And one of them, a kid that grew up in this neighborhood and was one of the main drug dealers of the town. And the thing that people don't realize, that are listening and maybe never travel, and how it goes because you live in Brazil, but, like, the cartels, and they have like a career path for them, right? Meaning, like, they start to little by little, like, attract their attention just by, like, hey, you just hang out here, just play around with kids and stuff, and next thing, and like, hey, just watch if you see any cops coming, anything, so make sure you whistle, you rise a kite, or whatever. You just watchers, right? So just from doing that, they don't have to carry anything. They already make more than mom and dad together. And because they see their friends, like, just flashing you, like, shoes and clothes, and like, dude, how did you get that? Like, I just watch it, just let them know someone's coming. I'm like, well, that's pretty tempting. And next thing, they start getting the runners or vapors, or the kids, they start to just being delivery boys. You know what I mean? Just go here, take that, come back. That's it. And then they upgrade to basically dealing. Now they're getting money, they're coming back, and all that kind of stuff. And then goes on and on, getting a managing position and so forth. So it's very tempting to them. So programs like that are are crucial, because the stories that you hear are incredible. So having like a guy like that was a manager for one of the favela, to be able, it's not easy to get out and still live in the community. And because he was from there, and jiu-jitsu, they do respect them there, or the work that they do, they kind of like, okay, they do some good for the community, so they kind of like tolerate them in a way, you know. But like the change that they have because of that, of being able to kids, because a lot of them, they start and they able, and they always say like, man, are able to recover. Some of them, some you cannot. And so it's very sad. And then we did one day was competition related. We actually we're supposed to go to City of God with Marcia de Deus, Gabriele Peçanha. She's the current number one female competitor in the world. She's from there, born and raised, started training there at 12 years old, and she is the current number one IBJJF world champion. She's incredible. And we've been supporting that project for many years. And we're scheduled to go there. They're coming back from the Europeans. And then was all over the news. And then we couldn't get in town because the favela wasn't literally like war. And man, really bad shootings, and it just couldn't get in. So I had to postpone. I interviewed him in a different place, and we still waiting because we're trying to get some footage, from there. But we still can go because it's still going. This was a month ago, and it's still, the thing's still going. It's probably going to go for a little bit. So only when things calm down, don't know when. So this is the last project they will be able to edit and do stuff, just because of the lack of material. But you'll have other interviews. So I have one day but this is regarding competition. That's a different way to impact socially as well, because it's, for many of them, is like jiu-jitsu, that's it, dude. You either do well at jiu-jitsu or that's it. There's crime, there's other things. So competition can play a huge role in a community of getting them opportunity, the same way that gives soccer and so forth. And that's something different in the US. We do have a program that will support, that happens to be in Arizona, in Tucson, Arizona, Higher Ground. They do an incredible, amazing job of being supporting them for a long time. But a big difference between the US and Brazil, and as far as competition goes, sometimes people ask, man, do you think one day the US or other countries will pass Brazil? Like, sure, yes, keep growing. But I tell you what, the hunger, necessity is a hell of a motivation. You know what I mean? So in US, some kid can be really good, but maybe hit a wall, be like, I'm just going to do something else. Okay. And then get a job and go to school. And, you have more opportunities. In Brazil, for many of them, like, yo, dude, that's it. You better be good at jiu-jitsu or do something else, because you're not going to leave. And when you go there and you go into those neighborhoods, there's no way not to mess with your head. You walking around those little places, you see trash everywhere, kids, they're completely forgotten. And yeah, most likely you have to be so like wired differently for you to get out of those communities, because it's the mindset around. It's kind of like, well, that's our life is here, that's what we do. And jiu-jitsu helps you bring, just for the fact they can travel to competitions, that they can see different countries, and they're like, oh my God, they're like, there are such a like thing I didn't know. There's, so open their eyes, for different realities, and that's incredible. One day we did about special needs. That was one of the most impactful trips that I've ever made. And this guy is actually a Nova Union black belt, 5th degree. He's been working special needs for 20 years for free. So this guy is incredible. And then talking with the parents and understanding different disabilities and so forth. That was one of my, from all, I've been traveling for a while, visiting projects, and that was very impactful. And we had a day too about mental health related. And we talk, you're asking about specific stories. We can go on and on with the stories, but this one is very interesting because this kid's 11 years old, and depression, bullying, all that kind of stuff, like really rough area. This is in a rural area of Rio. Try to kill himself, 11 years old, have multiple sessions with psychologists and all kind of stuff. And then start training jiu-jitsu and literally change this kid, right? I met him there to change this kid. And I asked the mom, how long did it take for him to see a little change? Just a little. I'm not saying like major, but a little change. And she didn't even think much. It was like 3 days, 3 classes.
Wow.
So I'm like, so this kid's been doing therapy, doing whatever, you know what I mean? If you can do both therapy with jiu-jitsu, that's why we do the work here too in US. In 3 classes, and the mom started like bawling and crying because she started training. And it comes as not just jiu-jitsu. Of course, jiu-jitsu does something, very unique, but the sense of like the belonging, of like being accepted and loved. It's one of my favorite programs too there. Incredible work. And just being part of something, that you're not being judged. Everyone's is being part of a community. And that it's, man, life changing, so many stories that I've seen, and I can tell you a few more, but this is just showing how there are different areas, socially speaking, right? Or like the mental health aspect, or a career, or, or changing someone from drug addiction. So there's so many different ways that jiu-jitsu can come and impact someone's life.
It's incredible, man. Yeah, it's really unbelievable. All the things that all the different ways jiu-jitsu can impact people's life. In fact, on that topic, I wanted to rewind for a second. There's something you said earlier that I'd love to zoom in on with you. Obviously, you were talking about the career paths that the drug gangs and cartels and the favelas have laid out for kids. And when you're a kid born in a favela, man, your back is against the wall from day one. So I imagine that the lure of money and the lure of relatively easy money for kids in a situation like that has got to be a hell of an obstacle to overcome, even with presenting them things that are awesome like jiu-jitsu. What have been some of the selling points that you've used or that you've seen other social projects use to lure kids onto the mats rather than going out and partaking in those kinds of activities, especially when they're in a situation where they really do need the money? How do you illustrate that jiu-jitsu could be a better path for them?
I tell you what, that's when competition can come very handy for this area. For example, I had the opportunity when I do seminars. I do teach jiu-jitsu and so forth, and I have some time to do a jiu-jitsu tribe presentation. So I show slides and I show videos and pictures of places that I have visited. And one in 2018, I was able to visit a program that this guy, incredible community leader, and teaching jiu-jitsu on the street for a decade. When I say in the street, it's basically the little entrance that you have for buses. They put mats there and they remove and they go right there. So it's like, so usually that's the most impactful video that I've ever able to show to people when I present. That is the one. So I don't want to show too much of the video because I don't want to spoil for some people. Maybe go to the seminar but see. But the stories I have to share because it's there's 2 of them and kind of related to what you said of like how jiu-jitsu can possibly change the possibility of some kids. One of them is I was with them. I'm watching the class. They warming up and stuff. So like, well, just some stories. So I was asked. So he showed me a kid and said like, oh, the kid right there. Yeah. His name is Ikaru. When I saw him, he was 12, 13. And then he said like, this kid when he was 11, like not too long. That was like maybe a year earlier or maybe something like that. he got involved with the cartel. Same deal, just getting the little career path going, and got to a point that he started carrying, and then he's, delivery boy. So he's young, he's curious, so he started consuming the drugs. So now, when he comes back, asking, where's the money? And of course, he didn't have the money. And one day in class, this guy, two guys in a kind of sketchy guys came in a motorcycle, and they're asking about the kid. So the coach here thought it was kind of weird, and started kind of asking more like, yeah, how may I help you? He's not here. And the dude basically said, like, tell him his day's coming. This kid is 11 years old. So he started to get, like he said, like, Gustavo, I begged and I literally cried. Like, I begged for this kid's life, and usually they don't let this fly, because they need to set an example. Because if you let one fly, and then they think that everyone's going to do it. So anyway, somehow they said, you know what, we never want to see him close by there, whatever. So they kind of let him go, because they kind of respect, in a way, what he does too. So they kind of tolerate his job. And then he told him, and he followed up with, I wish I had been able to save all of them. And I went there. I stay at his house. His house is maybe 200 yards from where they placed the mats down. And it said right in front of my house at 6 p.m. I just hear just suddenly just shots, like pop, 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 pop. And then one of his 16-year-old kid got shot right in front of his house. You know what I mean? So this is stuff that happens, and it's, unfortunately, it happens daily in Brazil. Somewhere in Brazil, someone's getting shot because of that and dying. And usually it's a minor. So on that same group, so that helped him to get, he always trying to get, them to compete and get involved. And what comes next is, like you're saying, what is a good selling point for the kids, right? That you mentioned, of not doing that. So this is not Jiu-Jitsu tribe related in a way. It's more personal. That's something that I do. I don't promote anything like that. Usually I don't make posts or anything about it, but since I'm trying to convey a point here, I'll share. But I asked, so what are some of the kids that just stand out here? And then show one kid that was 15, was getting his juvenile blue belt, and just turning 16 that year. So he wins things here, state-wise and stuff, but would love to travel to Brazil, and to Sao Paulo to compete at Brazilian nationals and stuff like that, but it's expensive. They can't really travel. And then he does well there. I'm like, okay. I told him, you know what? I'll help him out. I'll sponsor it. So I got in contact with one of my students from Eddie from Agro Brand. I'm like, hey, when I go there again, can you maybe give him some shirts and shorts and some gear, and also him feel he's kind of wow, I'm getting someone believes in what I'm doing. So that was cool. We were able to give some stuff to him. So I started paying for some registrations, for him to compete. Long story short, I had pandemic that didn't help anybody. But anyway, last year we finally were able to send him to the Brazilian nationals. And you're familiar with Rodrigo Feijão, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
From Nova União. Yeah. So he's a good friend of mine. We trained together in the 90s. For people who are not aware of Feijão, in my opinion, he has to be one of top 5 best coaches in the world currently. Guys that he basically have a house with some pro kids, the 10 or 12 kids from different projects. So, from Brazil, they got them when they're blue belts, and then, and they have black belt world champions there. So he does an incredible job. So I told Feijão, said, hey, I have this kid. He's going to compete at the Brasileiro. Take a look at him. If you like him, I'll sponsor him to live at the house with the kids and see how it goes. So he went there. He won a match, lost the second one, and then said send him there. So he went there. It was July 2022. And one of the things when I started sponsoring him, one of the first things I said, what is your what is your goal? And he said, like, I would love to be a world champion, to travel. And I always ask those kids, and I already know the answer, but I said, do you have a passport? And it said, no, like, well, we need to work on that, because when the opportunity presents itself, like, oh, I need to go get, no. You need to have your passport in hand. And I'm not even talking about family issues, okay? Like family and crime and stuff like that. Bad deal. This kid is like just a little small push away to go to a wrong route. So long story short, when it was September, Feijão was hired by the UAE national team to go to Abu Dhabi and train their team for a month. And of course, he's an incredible coach, and they love his work, and even flew his family to stay there for a few weeks. And then they wanted to stay until the World Pro that happens in November, right? So he said, like, man, I need to go back. I have my school. He does really well in Brazil, got a lot of responsibilities too in Maringá. And so they wanted to do it. And so he was like, man, I really didn't want to stay. And then they offer good money, but he said, like, if you pay for my 10 of my kids to come here to stay in Abu Dhabi and train and compete, I'll stay. They're like, done. So I got in contact, got back, sent a message like, hey, who has passport checked in and stuff? Boom. So this kid was able to go to Abu Dhabi for free.
Wow.
So training there, learning from incredible guys like Ramon Lemos and Michel Maia, like incredible high-level guys, had a chance to compete at the Abu Dhabi World Pro in the Blue Belt division and won. In that while.
Amazing.
You know what I mean?
Amazing.
So that kid, it's such an incredible reference for everyone else, because now they know someone from here made it. We're talking to Blue Belt, but like, dude, you're training like in the street 6 months ago. Yeah. You competed in Abu Dhabi, you know what I mean? And I don't tell this to try to impress you, Ryan, or any of the listeners, or like how good of a citizen I am, but it's just to convey the point that everyone can pay forward for a little bit. Yeah. Pay forward for what Jiu-Jitsu has done to your life. And it doesn't take much. I'm not balling with a lot of money. That costs me one student per month to be able to support that.
Wow.
And now in January, so Feijão sometimes goes to Qatar, so they hire him to go teach there. So they sponsor 10 people to go to the European. So he went to France for free to compete at the European. So this kid's in less than 1 year, this kid's mind, he's a different person. This kid is a different person. So I'm asking, like, what are the main takeaway, that you got especially from the Abu Dhabi trip? And he said exactly what everyone sees, like how big the world is, and then how small I used to think. I used to think like, well, my life is here, and we do what we do here. But now to be able to see that, and then cool that he did well at the tournament, and even if he didn't, he spent 5 weeks in Abu Dhabi, you know what I mean, seeing a different culture, and talk about personal and social development tool for Jiu-Jitsu, and because of Jiu-Jitsu Tribe's work of going there, visiting those places, and now, man, that kid is, what is it right now? He's 20 years old. He's 20 right now. And he's like, their idol there, you know what I mean? Wow. He traveled, not only like, wow, he went to Sao Paulo. That's a massive deal. And then they're like, he went to Abu Dhabi? What is Abu Dhabi? You know what I mean? So that is a good selling point, is that like you can travel, you can go far with Jiu-Jitsu, and all we need is people to believe. How many people, Ryan, helped you to be where you're at today?
Plenty.
For the listeners, how many people helped you that you barely knew you and gave you a shot, gave you a chance? I'm not talking about Jiu-Jitsu. I'm talking about life in general. How many people were able to help you because they feel like, I want to help this guy. I want to help this girl. I barely know. I know it happens with me. If it wasn't people helping me believing my Jiu-Jitsu journey, I would not be here in the United States. That is for sure. I know that. So I feel that is my duty to give find a way to give it back. I can never pay back people who helped me, but I can pay it forward. That's all I ask this kid. I tell her, you don't have to put him picture for me. You don't have to tag me. You don't have to say anything, but I do want one day you'll be able to do that for someone. And that's the idea that we try to do, convey the point here of like, maybe $5, maybe like, man, it's not going to make an impact. It will. If 100 people give $5, oh, okay, we're talking. No, that's nice. That's a good, that's a lot of, and for people who don't know, in Brazil, it's 5 to 1, right? So $5 can go a long way in Brazil for the things that we do and with different programs. So the idea is trying to, in a way, like, for example, buying a gi from Jiu-Jitsu Tribe that we don't have on stock. I only do the pre-orders, but like you paying it forward. And the cool thing is that, I actually get a gi out of it and I'm giving a gi to someone, So I feel like, and this is, I think you will relate and you, the listener, relate to. I learned something from my mom that she said, Gustavo, some people come in your life, they're like shooting stars. They come in, they make an impact, and they leave quick. Sometimes, how many people in your life, Ryan, or people you're listening that you just met, maybe because of this person made a connection, they went a different route and never seen this person again, but this person came, made an impact, and moved on. They did help you, and we cannot forget that.
I love the example you gave of the young man that made it to Abu Dhabi and got to train in Qatar and all that, because it basically what you're saying is that it illustrates that this is possible, and I think that's one of the things that you would be up against running a social project when you have the wrong path sitting right there outside the door. You see all the other kids walking around with new shoes, with money, with gold chains. They're clearly doing okay, so they see, okay, this is a possibility that I see every day. It's people I know. Whereas with anything else, it could just be an idea, just a pipe dream. But if kids in that program see someone like the young man that you referred to, that helps immensely. So that's great that you have those kinds of selling points to combat such a overwhelming obstacle of keeping kids away from going down the wrong path. Speaking of impacting kids, I wanted to jump over to another point you were making before about mental health and kids that deal with those kinds of issues. What are some of the most important ways that you present jiu-jitsu to kids that are struggling with mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and things like that, to help them along the way? What do you think are some of the most important keys to touch on in jiu-jitsu?
Well, I think it is not even like the same, but from what I notice, and it's not men. Like, for example, with a place that I went to, there was special needs related, and it was the leader. That dude could be teaching golf, and those kids would love golf, and they're part of something. It happens that jiu-jitsu have that connection, but I feel that it's really being part of something. Like this program, this rural area that I mentioned about, this kid that tried to kill himself, man, they support 100 families. Okay, this lady, she knows the name of all the families I had, the kids, and their story. I've never seen anything like that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I saw how she treats all of them. They come in, they hug her, she kissed them, like, I saw how they treat. So that belonging, you know what I mean? That's what it does. Jiu-jitsu, of course, it's one more activity. They have other activities. They have soccer, they have art, they have music, but the environment that they're at, they've being part of something. So we had one little girl in our, I think that's one of the best stories that we had from the pilot program that we had in my academy. So this girl, as a matter of fact, was about 12 years old. So she was a little overweight. So bullying, all that kind of stuff, super depressed, panic attacks, just like that. And the first day, she would not leave the bathroom because she was freaking out, right? And she, from all the kids that I had on the pilot, and probably had about 15 kids that have been through the program, she was by far the number one that loved the most. she'll be smiling. The letter, the mom's letter that she wrote to the Resilient Health City organization. If you try to talk with the mom about like, hey, what jiu-jitsu did for your daughter, she's just starts crying. She cannot even talk because she like the girl changed. Again, she never felt like she was part of anything. You know, for the first time, she was being accepted and she's playing and she's smiling and being part of something. So it's not so much like what you say, you know, but like it's how the place is going to make them feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're having that connection with everyone, that is okay to do something wrong and then you fix and you go again. And next thing she's doing moves to boys and she's like, oh my God, I just took this boy down, you know, like, so all those things. And then it was incredible, you know, so I feel that yes, being part of something, maybe if it was just a private class, I don't know how much that would have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Of course it would help, of course, but not as like being part of a group that actually everyone, it would help for sure. There's no doubt. But, you know, being part of a group, I feel that that's what I notice the most. And every place that I go, that I visit and I see the connection that they have with the group, you know, or kids that they go in and they never open their mouth, and next thing they're the one that they're talking the most, and those transformations are incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the camaraderie in jiu-jitsu, while also pursuing a goal together, like we're all trying to get better together. We're trying to help each other get better. It's the combination of not just having a sense of belonging, but a sense of purpose and direction and a goal to eventually become a black belt, and become good at jiu-jitsu. So it really is something very unique. I love that you're harnessing it in this way, man. I love hearing these kinds of stories because it really is a powerful thing, man. Gustavo, obviously we talked a lot about programs that exist in Brazil. There have been a couple that I've known of personally in the United States as well. I know there's Guardian Gym out in Oakland, California, that does a lot of really good work in this manner. There was one that unfortunately isn't open anymore, but they were called Vector Jiu-Jitsu. They were out of Jackson, Mississippi, and
they closed. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's interesting though, because there are programs in the United States that people might not be aware of it. For someone out there listening that might feel inspired and say, you know what, I want to start my own 503c and get going and start offering this in my community and helping people. How can people start a 501c3 nonprofit organization? Like, what goes into that? What are the requirements? If you don't mind, please explain that to us.
Yeah, I tell you what, number one was in 2010 plus. I'm not like the paper guy, you know what I mean? You have co-founder Anthony, he's the one that did all that part. I know a couple things, but I don't know a lot of things. Yeah, sure. You know, I just have good ideas, right? So yeah, with Guardian, they closed the one in Oakland, right? They used to have a gym. After the pandemic, they expanded. I interview, and that'll be awesome if you could have Calder here. I interviewed him like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. He's the new executive director for Guardian. So I think it would be awesome to have him here. And so I interviewed him to be able to share more about it. And I heard about Guardian maybe in 2016 or 17. I was listening to a podcast. What's the name? Forgot. It wasn't a jiu-jitsu podcast, but they're interviewing Ben Kovacs, the main kind of like founder. Yeah. And then he said for like 10 seconds, said, I don't know, profit jiu-jitsu. And they kind of like really didn't get into it. And I was like, oh man, I got to contact this guy. Cause you never hear much about nonprofits and jiu-jitsu related. So I got in contact with them, started developing a relationship. We've done some donations to them before. And so right now they do have different locations, right? But so they do partnerships with academies. So I don't know exactly how we know like the details of how they represent. I don't know if it's a specific number of students that they do to be able to represent it, but I think they may have like maybe 5 or 6 representatives in the United States. I know they have Baltimore, they have in Maui, they have in LA, and so they have in a few different areas. and I would assume, at risk if people that can really afford. And I think the best way, because since our program, it's not like that. Our program is more like helping funding those programs, right? And even told them, like if there's something that we can work on doing fundraisers for one of Guardian schools. So the best way to be really getting in contact with Guardian is, I believe the Instagram is Guardian at Guardian Gym, and they're doing a great job. So I think it would be awesome to bring someone here. And one of the things, since with my podcast, and I put this mission too, I started Googling, okay, nonprofit organizations in the United States, or besides Brazil, but it'd be a few here in the US, and some people putting programs inside their school. So I've been trying to get to interview some people, just get the word out of, because even if you're listening right now on a mission to pay forward, dude, it doesn't mean that you need to support Jiu-Jitsu tribe. No, Guardian. Or if it's not a Jiu-Jitsu organization, a nonprofit organization. I support Charity Water. It's an incredible organization. I've been donating for almost like 5 years or something, and I donate $30 per month. Okay, $30, but 5 years, $30, it goes a long way. It's not gonna break my legs. I'm donating $30, but they do an amazing work. And as a matter of fact, Browse Foundation, they do work with that too. Not only they're gonna build a school in Pakistan right now, but they do work with build wells for in Pakistan too for water, and they have incredible mission as well with Browse Foundation. So, but as far as the question of how to open out and say, I don't know exactly, and this is of course they can really go around and to research, but I think it's totally worth it getting in contact with Guardian to be like, hey, what if I want to become a Guardian representative? Yeah. I already have the school. That could be something that could happen. And then we support programs. Higher Ground, it's one in Tucson, Arizona, as I mentioned, is an after school program. And as far as I know, this guy, Jensen, he's incredible, has been on my podcast too, been supporting them for like 10 years. They're able to put Jiu-Jitsu in a school district in Tucson. And not many people, as far as I know, in the United States have been able to pull that off. So that's an incredible program. And yeah, so that's why we keep always supporting them. As a matter of fact, Arizona BJJ League, we have our black belt cards for the instructor. So the idea is just to make sure, the coaches can come in and come in for free and stuff. 80% of that donation, I think we charge like $25 or something. 80% goes to Higher Ground, 20% for us for fees or whatever, but like 80% of all the black belts in Arizona who are donating, being part of this program, go back to Higher Ground in Tucson.
That's really incredible, man. What's so cool about this is it really emphasizes there's so many paths, there's so many different ways to give back and to be a part of something big. And whether you're part of a thing like Guardian Gym, where you become like an affiliate, or whether you start your own nonprofit organization, or whether you just contribute a certain amount of money a month to something like Jiu-Jitsu Tribe, there's so many ways to do it, man. And I just remembered another program that from a friend of mine, Ishmael Bentley, up in Minnesota. He runs a program that's a satellite program in the Philippines. So there's all different ways that you can do this. You can do stuff nationally, internationally. There's tons of ways to give back. You can adopt a student. You find someone that's maybe hard up for money and let them train for free. With the agreement that they do well in school or something like that. But yeah, I really love these kinds of conversations, man. Because I really am. I
have a suggestion for a guest too that I interviewed. Sam Crook. Have you heard of him? He teaches Jiu-Jitsu in Cameroon.
Yes. That program's called
the Francis Ngannou Foundation.
Yeah.
You should check him out, dude. Yeah, should check him out. This dude is from England and he went to Cameroon, doesn't speak any French, and went there. They need a volunteer and say like, hey, just imagine, hey, just imagine if you're listening right now and say like, yes, I don't speak the language. I'm gonna go in. There's no geese. They have no idea what jiu-jitsu is. Go teach a program for free. You know what I mean? And he's been there for almost 4 years. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that is very special. So he just had for the first time his first Frank, his student. The first time they took a student to compete out of the country. So that was awesome. That and they're pretty good, man. You see the videos, they're like they ain't playing around. They're like advanced jiu-jitsu. I'm not talking like, oh, yeah, it's cute that you're no. They're tough kids. And actually with good jiu-jitsu. He's doing an incredible job. It's totally worth it to talk with him. Very, very inspiring. And so he's part of our Adopt a Social Project program that we're currently looking for sponsors as well. And by the way, just with the Adopt Social Project, basically a company or academy or association or a person, it costs $300 per month for a 12-month period. Some people can say, oh, wow, that's a lot of money, $300. A student and a half, depending on how you charge, but to be able to support a program. Plus, it's something that you can do in the academy, that you put a little jar. So like, hey guys, we adopt a social project in Cameroon, it's awesome, or whatever the place is. And every month we send $300. Can you tip in? And people put some cash in the end of the month. Maybe, we need $50 more, and the academy goes. So maybe the academy doesn't take a big hit. You know what I mean? So it can be, there's big associations that it can have like a bunch of schools and be like, yo, each one donates $20, each academy. So the association can adopt a project. So it could be a project that you already have, like we'll have listed back here, or we're open to have someone, Bruno Bastos is bringing a project that's one of the first projects that we helped also over 10 years ago. And Bruno's adopting a project in Rio that is from one of his old students. And so he's bringing what we helped him way long ago. One of the first, back when we just pay for registrations back in 2010 or so. But now we're bringing them to be part of the Adopt a Social Project program. So it's pretty cool to have.
That's pretty incredible. And what you said there is awesome. Like, yeah, if you have an environment like an academy where someone wants to start and have a jar and just have something like that where people can at will contribute how they want, that's a really brilliant way to do it too, man. And also, I mean, for anyone that does things like this, it's a tax write-off too. Like if you own a business, $300 a month. I mean, that's a great tax write-off for your business and for your individual taxes as well. So
I just feel like more you help, it comes back, dude. Yes. Seriously. Maybe like you giving whatever 2 students away and maybe you're getting 4 new students. You know what I mean? Like I really believe in that. There's times in my life that I wasn't doing well financially, but I knew someone family related that really needed that. And I'm like, and I wasn't in a position to do it, but I'm like, man, but I did. I'm not saying that people should do that, but it'll be something like the day of, someone comes in and pays 6 months in advance, or you know what I mean? Like there's always it's always wild how like when you go out of your way to pay for it, to help someone, always comes back. I'm not saying for you to give so you can get it back, but I feel like it does happen. It does happen often in times that if you stop to think about times that you help someone when out of nowhere an opportunity presents itself for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think karma is definitely real, man. So it's a very good point. And yeah, man, again, just all the work you guys are doing, I think it's really phenomenal. I think it's something that is worthwhile and is obviously having a great impact around the world. So I really do commend you on all the work, man. Gustavo, I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch gears with you here really fast, man. This is something new I've added to the show since you've been on last. It's a game that I play with every guest. It's basically a lightning round. It's called the Pummel. The Pummel is a series of random questions. Some of these have to do with jiu-jitsu. Some of them have nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. But if you'd like to play the Pummel with me real quick, I'd love to play this game with you.
I'll give it a shot.
All right, man. Question 1, what's the worst job you ever had?
there kids watching this? No.
No, no. But now I'm intrigued.
Escort driver.
Oh, escort driver, really?
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
For about 6 weeks, and I had to quit because it was a bad deal, and it wasn't a safe job, to be honest.
I can imagine.
But when you get into man, I always mention there's nothing more motivating than necessity. Especially when you have a wife and kid and you don't have money for rent, and then it just wasn't my personality. I don't even know if I made it 6 weeks, maybe it was 5. But it was kind of like dangerous and it was shady. And then I kind of, when I realized like, oh, dude, this is kind of a little scam here, and got it probably, I don't think I made it. Yeah, probably was about a month. But yeah, long story. I'm not going to say that, like I'm proud, but especially when you come in and you don't have a social security and you need to, like drive, I need to do whatever I got to do. I need to get paid cash. And you need to survive and support your family. I'm like, yep, you got to do some of the things that it is what it is, but that brought me here today.
Well, I'm glad nothing crazy happened to you. At least nothing lethal or anything like that. So that's good.
Because that happened. It happened. And, yeah, it's not back then that was over 20 years ago, but that was not a safe job at all.
Wow, man. Well, I'm happy you don't have to do that anymore. What do you think is a secret talent that you have that people might not know about?
Ooh. Yeah. I don't know if I have any. Yeah, I don't have a secret talent. Maybe I try to play guitar to entertain myself a little bit, but I'm not a great player, but I entertain myself a little bit.
That's cool. Nice. I like that. What's something you wish you were better at outside of martial arts?
What I wish I was better at. That is it's definitely a tough question, but if I was better at, like I'm maybe people don't realize because I put content, I put a video, but I'm like a major introvert, kind of like pushing socially awkward person to that extreme. So maybe like less. So I work a lot on my personal development to try to improve that. But yeah, I got a lot of work to do.
I think you're doing pretty well, man. I would have never known that if you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
So you're doing good, man. That's awesome. That's excellent. What do you think is the worst injury you've ever had in jiu-jitsu?
Man, I dislocated my arm like 3 times and have some surgeries. But I think as far as painful, having a bulging disc and cervical, luckily I didn't have surgery. But as far as pain, yeah, bulging disc, man, if anyone listening had one, either like in your cervical or in your lower back that comes out to your leg or your arms and your fingers are numb, man, I think that was the most painful thing that I think I had.
Wow. Well, I hope it's not debilitating to you now.
Yeah, it hasn't flared in a long time. Amazingly, I don't train much no-gi, and I felt like the time that aggravated more for some reason, it was a lot of the banging on the head, like in the neck and kind of snapping down when wrestling and stuff like that. And I back then I used to do a little more of a stand-up too, and yeah, it aggravated big time, and I stopped, and then I kind of got back to it, and then started kind of aggravating it again. I'm like, you know what? So usually nowadays I really stick with the gi.
I hear you. No, that makes perfect sense, man. I'm happy it's not something that aggravates you constantly, though. That's good news.
Yeah.
What do you think is your favorite bad food to eat? Favorite junk food?
Like fried stuff.
Fried stuff.
Even like a burger, still kind of like
sure.
It's still like a type of like not that good stuff. You can try to make like healthier burgers and stuff like that, but Oh yeah, burger with fries, definitely a good one. I try to keep under control. I'm not too bad with my diet and stuff like that. I'm actually pretty fairly decent. I try to stick with like more fish, but I do eat a little bit of other stuff too. But yeah,
Nice.
fried stuff usually. Usually when like if I'm cutting weight, for some reason I don't crave sweets. I really don't care much about chocolate sweets or whatever, but for some reason I'm cutting weight. I want to eat like fried stuff.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm not much of a sweet. I don't have much of a sweet tooth either. I'm also like a salty. Like I like salty stuff too, for sure. Yeah. What do you think was the scariest moment of your life?
It depends, because when you talk about fear, there is that emotional or real fear? Because there's different
Yeah,
ones,
yeah, for
like there are
sure.
different types of like scared. Like, yeah, I want to move to the US, and then as soon as I get out of the plane, I'm in Vegas, and then I'm hit me anxiety, like, holy crap, I'm here and I can't go back.
Yeah,
Well, that's a type of emotional one.
sure.
But yeah, how much time we have though?
Oh no, take it down
Because
as much as you want. Yeah, go ahead. Whatever you feel like sharing.
so, as already mentioned, I live in Brazil, so that would be a question for you and for you, the listeners, so they can participate too. Imagine you are going back home from Jiu-Jitsu and you're getting close to your house, maybe like 5 minutes away from your house, right? And then you just walk in, and then it's at 10 at night, so it's basically late and not many cars or people around. And then suddenly stop a car right next to you. One person put a gun on a window. The other one comes around, put a gun in your face, and tell them, get in the car. Would you get in the car?
Um, I would prefer to not get in the car, honestly. Just 'cause, yeah, they always say once you go to the second location, that's usually when things go real bad. So it's of course easy to say, oh, I would never go in the car and talk macho, but in the moment, I imagine that's a pretty. I mean, that'd be a terrifying decision to have to make, to either run or fight, or submit and get in the car.
Yeah, so I had to make that decision in Brazil for not being kidnapped.
Wow.
And so that's why I kind of like um I'm not saying, when I say Brazil, my experience, I lived in Rio.
Sure.
Okay, so um Rio is tricky, dude. You know what I mean? Especially now, and this I'm talking like 90s, okay? Long, and I'm talking uh 90, yeah, too, like 30 years ago. So imagine now. So now it's a lot more violent, and if you're a tourist in Rio, you gotta be careful, for sure. You can't just go flashing your cell phone and taking pictures anywhere. Where you go, it's all good. I just want to take a bus, and like that. Make sure that you're either with tourist group or with people who know Rio's not the place to, like, oh, let me explore Rio by myself. I'm just gonna walk around and take a bus. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't recommend.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying violence is everywhere in the world, but definitely Rio, the city, it's very tricky. And I live in a neighborhood in the north side called Vila Isabel, and actually, that was my senior year in high school. So yeah, yeah. So it was like, yeah, close to 30 years ago. So I was just coming back from training, and suddenly this car was just walking just across the street, and when you're like in that kind of like neighborhood, you have like middle to lower middle class house and kind of like favelas in a way,
They're kind of mixed in. Yeah.
So yeah. So I'm walking home, and so this dude just pointed a gun. I look, because as soon as I looked to the side, one gun was already pointed in the window, and the other one just came out of the car. And for some reason, let's put it this way: I've been in a lot of situations like that. I've been, either robbed or ran out or got out of situations in Brazil. So for some reason, I always kept like very calm with that. Never like I've was like freaked out really. So I just kept calm, and I was like, why are you running? I'm like, I'm not running. I just cried. I just crossed the street, and I ran across the street because of like bus coming or whatever. So I'm just crossing, and then I'm just walking. And he's like, "Where's the dope? Where's the dope?" Like, dude, I just live down the street. Because like 2 blocks down, yes, you could buy dope or whatever, but I was ahead. I wasn't coming from there. I was going towards that direction to my house. And so he gets my bag in his, like a duffel bag. He opens, and then I have a gi, and I have the first supplement I ever bought was a BCAA. It's the first time I was buying it. I was all excited that I'm like, oh, I'm going to take a supplement. You know, so I was all excited that I had a supplement. And uh, so this, and we're talking like, this is not young guys. This is like gray hair dudes. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
older,
Wow.
older fellas.
And you're in high school. You're a
And
kid. Yeah.
yeah. I was 17. No, it was my senior year. And and then and then I go and I tell him, like, there's, it's just my gi. I'm coming back from training. There's nothing to steal there. He got so triggered that I was calling him like some type of like thug or whatever. For some reason, he got offended, and so he goes and pulls police badge, Polícia Civil,
Oh, shit.
right? So, do I know if it's legit or not? I'm not gonna analyze it, you know what I mean? But they were older and whatever, and they were on something. They most likely were on some blow or something, because they were kind of hyped up, you know what I mean? And they were on something.
Wow.
So he looks at me, and I see the anger in his eyes, because he thinks that, like I'm calling him something. So he gets his um his badge, and he tried to shove it in my face, but looking with anger, So I just stepped back, and I was like, dude, I'm just trying to go. And he does that, and then I move back, and just kind of automatically, I just kind of put my hands up. I'm not trying to fight a guy with a gun, right? So then he got even more triggered, So as I moved back, and he put his gun sideways, like he wanted to hit me with the gun. So I kept moving back. And in my stupid mind, this is the only freaking gi that I had, right? So I see people, it's so funny today, people have like 50 gis or whatever, collections of like hundreds of gis. I'm like, fuck, this guy's gonna take my gi, So I'm stupid thinking he's gonna take my blue belt, he's gonna take my gi, you know, and and then I start walking back towards him, and I grab one side of the duffel bag, like, dude, I'm just trying to go home. And then I pull the bag, and he pulled back, and then he said, like, get in the car. So, and then I start to backpedal and start walking back. And this, I start kind of walking towards the middle of the street. And that is the point that it got like, if the anytime I ever panic in my life, that would be it there.
Wow.
So he just put on the chamber and said, and like, if you run, it's going to be worse. And with his arm just pointed at me, and I'm already like walking back. And dude, I just took, because there's like a lot of parallel parking. So I just ran to the side, like the sidewalks. A lot of cars in Brazil, normal to have a lot of parallel parking. So I'm screaming for help and running, like squatting down, like to go. If he wanted to shoot, he did have time. Let's put it this way, and they basically they kind of reverse, went to a different way, and then took off and I have my school ID with the address, so I had to change the the locks at home and all that kind of stuff. So now they had a very similar case of a guy that in Brazil. 2 guys, same thing. They decided to run. One dude got shot right in the back in the spine and became staying in a wheelchair forever. And he became a parent athlete and from Brazil and stuff. But that could have happened with me. You know what I mean? It just happened that someone's watching over me, and then that made him not to pull the trigger and to get out. Getting in the car, it would not be that would not be an option.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you talk about the most scary thing that I've been, yeah, like I said, I've been robbed before, with guns pulled before, but like that one was very unique because there's nothing around. If the guy shot me and left, there's no one to know about it. Period.
God, that's scary.
So
dude.
so long story short, yeah, that was the scariest one. So my question for the listener is: would you get in the car or would you run away?
No, that's man. I appreciate you sharing that. That's really a very scary story. Yeah, that's they always say that statistically, getting to a second location, your odds of survival decrease by pretty tremendous numbers. So, better to fight or to try to run than get in a car and get taken to a second place. But I know that's easy to say. Easy to say. Yeah.
Have you interviewed Todd Fox?
No, I don't think so.
He has a company called, I think it's Tour Protection. He basically is like jiu-jitsu black belt, maybe fourth degree or something. Great dude. He goes in a lot of podcasts and he works on basically like security for like celebrities and stuff like that. There'll be another guy incredible to interview. And I threw the scenario to him too, because he talks about security, safety and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he said like, never get in the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just never get in the car.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, man, you gotta make that decision like that fast. And so that's why, like, personally, I don't want to scare people, but like I had enough in Rio, so I don't feel at ease when I go to Rio.
Yeah.
I have enough reasons for me to always be looking over my shoulder. I don't like to go out at night. You know what I mean? Like I have PTSD big time. You know what I mean? So I go to Brazil, go to other parts, and I still go to like messed up areas. But when you go to messed up areas, many times you're safe while you're there because the cartel knows that you're there. They allowed you to go there. You know what I mean? So that's different. I'm not just going there, let me explore. They are aware that I'm there.
Yeah, that was very much how it was when I went to when I filmed that documentary, Saint of Crackland. The area down there is called Cracolândia, which is Portuguese for crackland. For the, I know Gustavo, I know you know that, but for the listeners, and then
that place is wild.
It was. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Yeah, I'd never seen anything like that. But that's one of the things I noticed is as we're walking in, I was just like, man, dude, this is like, are we good here? And my buddy Lyle, who ran the program, he was like, dude, I've been here for years. They all know me. We have permission to be here. I already told them you're coming. We're good, you know. So it was interesting to be able to walk into a place that otherwise, had you not been invited, it would have been really, really intimidating and really scary to walk into a place like that. So yeah. But again, man, I'm glad that nothing bad happened in that situation for you. I'm happy you survived, and I appreciate you sharing that story. That's a scary one. What do you think is we talked about your favorite bad food to eat. What's your most hated food? What's something that you cannot eat no matter what?
As silly as it sounds, like beets.
Oh, beets. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I remember I had something on like infection on my throat when I was like young, maybe between 10 and 12 or something, and my grandma was taking care of me, and then I couldn't really eat anything. Everything hurt my throat, and I couldn't really swallow. So she would give juice, and it was like some type of bead, like juice with some orange, and that was disgusting. To this day, you know, I got PTSD from that, and I can't even smell that thing. I'm like, dude, no, I don't eat that, you know, since a child. So that it's like, no. So maybe the taste is not as bad, but maybe since you're a kid, it got so traumatized that I'm like, nope.
Who do you think is your favorite superhero?
Well, I've never been like in a superhero type, you know, a thing, but I don't know if it's cheesy, but if I say like, and I think about superhero, when you talk about superhero, it doesn't come to my mind like an actual like action figure or whatever. It's just my mother comes in mind, you know, when I think about that. So I just never been like too much into that. It's just because what she was able to do with single mom with 2 kids and no child support, and just starting from nothing, from, you know, so that it's where a lot of like my kind of like drive and work ethic that I got from just observing her, you know. In a way, it was the good and the not so good, meaning good that yes, my work ethic, but the not so good is to a point of like being a workaholic, you know what I mean? Not having like a limit and feeling guilty that if I take a break, I shouldn't be taking a break, you know? So I feel guilty that I'm taking a break. So so many years of therapies and, self-development to kind of understand that and keep that pattern in mind, So yeah, nothing like per se exciting, but if I think about the word, I think about her.
That's incredible. I love that, man. It's an excellent answer. Really nice, man. If you could choose a superpower, what would you choose?
Man, I think that literally that an unlimited like resource of not being cheesy or anything, because like sometimes I daydream like, what if I win Powerball? What I'll do? You know what I mean? The resource of like what kind of impact would you be able to make? You know what I mean? In so many like impoverished communities, you know what I mean? Like have with like just having limited support resource, that I can go in and revamp a favela, you know what I mean? And be able to put water in this area, or being able to being able to put power, electricity on this area, things like that. I don't think so much, like, or power, but I do think, if there's something I would be daydreaming, just tripping about it, would be like, how awesome, be unlimited, like, resource, that would be something that, I don't know, just think about it.
That's awesome. I like that. It's a good one, man. And final question for the pummel game, Gustavo. If a zombie apocalypse breaks out right now, what's the first thing you do?
Man, I try to get my dogs and my cats and my wife, my son, like, yo, let's go, yo. Let's go somewhere. I gotta do somewhere. Because, if they come in here, I don't know. I need to pack everyone in the car and let's go somewhere and then run and live the Walking Dead or something. I don't know what that would be, but I just try to get everyone.
Get him out of there. Yeah, I hear you. Excellent. Good. So you'd cut and run. I got you, man. That's a good move. Unless you live in like a really fortified place or like really rural, I think bugging out is probably the best option. So good choice, man.
Yeah.
And Gustavo, that was the final question for the pummel game. Congratulations, you win. You got your double underhooks.
Nice.
So, man, in closing, Gustavo, what are some of your major goals for the rest of 2023? What are some things you hope to accomplish by the time the year's over?
Man, I really want to expand the Adopt a Social Project program, to be able to have academy. So if you are listening right now and if you own an academy, or maybe give the idea to your coach or to your association, to your business, we have one. One of the support is actually one of my students, Greg McClarty. He's the owner of Control Physical Therapy in Scottsdale, Arizona. So he's sponsoring one of the project. So it's not a jiu-jitsu academy, right? It's not a person, it's a business, so it's awesome to have. So ideal right now, I think in this board, we have 16 programs, it would be incredible if I could find 16 sponsors, which is not easy. No, really not. It's definitely not easy. People get into your idea. And sometimes people are very skeptical, like, what are they going to do with the money? And I understand, because unfortunately, dude, there's scams in everything. But this would be a big goal for this year, to be able to get more people involved with the Adopt a Social Project program.
Well, folks, unfortunately, we're fresh out of time. Gustavo, man, I love these kinds of conversations, man. I'm a sucker for a good charity story. I'm a sucker for a good story about people that like giving back and helping to the community. And I think you're doing tremendous work, man. I really do commend you on everything that you're doing through the Jiu-Jitsu tribe. And, man, you're welcome back on the show anytime you'd like to come back. I'd love to have you back in the future.
Yeah, man, I appreciate your time, the opportunity to get the word, just bring more awareness of especially Jiu-Jitsu tribe. I feel that there are not many organizations out there. So if you do know one, support them. whether jiu-jitsu or not, but support nonprofits, because that's one of the things I really not like there's anything new, but like when my last trip to Brazil, thinking like, man, I don't know what, I'm not saying Brazil, but I'm saying impoverished communities worldwide. Okay. There are places worse than others, of course, but like, I don't know what the world would be without those social projects and nonprofit organizations who those guys are like, many of them are completely forgotten, totally. And those organizations there, those social projects, they do an incredible job. And then we do our best to support them, to support their mission, but yes, it's, man, if you do have a chance to support an organization, do so, even if it's $5 per month. We can find information about me if you go to my Instagram at Gustavo Dantas BJJ. There is a link tree there, and there'll be links for my academy, ZBJJL podcasts, and Jiu-Jitsu Tribe. So different things. You can go there and can always send me a message as well. And got some cool things. And something I didn't mention, in July, I'll be promoting the first Jiu-Jitsu Tribe Cup. It's a tournament for kids from 4 to 17, just dedicated to social project kids in the south of Brazil.
Wow. Amazing. That's really
registration already open, everything, and it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Well, man, like I said, dude, everything you're doing, I think it's just really outstanding, man. And I really do commend you on it. For anyone out there that wants to keep up with Gustavo, it's really easy to do so. If you're on Facebook, it's the BJJ Mental Coach. And you can also follow Jiu-Jitsu Tribe. Both of those are two separate pages on Facebook. On Instagram, like he said, Gustavo Dantas BJJ. And they've also got Jiu-Jitsu Tribe, at Jiu-Jitsu Tribe on Instagram. YouTube will be the BJJ Mental Coach. The website is BJJmentalcoach.com and jujitsutribe.org for the social project. And then, guys, if you're ever traveling through Tempe, Arizona, he's got an outstanding school out there, so make sure you guys drop in and get some training. And Gustavo, I really do appreciate your time once more, my friend. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming back after all these years.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please stay tuned for the next episode of the BJJ Fanatics Podcast.